Welcome to the summer edition of the Sprint to Success with Design Thinking podcast.
How do you navigate change? It's a question we think about often, and one that today's world expects us to be comfortable with. The challenge, however, is where do you begin, and how do you develop the mindset and skill set to be successful? Welcome, everyone, to the Sprint to Success with Design Thinking podcast. I'm your host, Saba Kidwai. Join me each week as I share the stories and strategies from the world's leading researchers and practitioners about why they believe the answer lies in practicing design thinking.
That quote resonates with me so deeply because when I think back, so I graduated my teaching credential program in 2008. And that was a time of the recession. And anybody who's familiar with what educators went through at that time, it was awful. You know, it was like layoff notice after layoff notice. And I remember reading the book by Thomas Friedman, Thank You for Being Late, where he talks about all the different technologies that were emerging and all the different opportunities that were emerging in 2007. And I read that, about maybe 2-3 years ago. So about like a decade after 2007. And I just remember thinking, wow, how might my life have been different if I had had teachers and professors who had been talking about those emerging technologies and the role that that was going to have on me as a new graduate going into the world of work. And so I think a lot of times when we talk about the future, we almost talk about it as if it doesn't exist. We talk about a lot of things as if they're going to come, whereas you look around the world and you realize, wait a minute, there's already people doing this. And so a lot of the work in my dissertation, it was really shaped in 2016 by an author and professor, used to be at MIT, now Stanford, Eric Brynjolfsson. And he used to say that technology doesn't shape our destiny, we shape our destiny. And that really got me sort of down into finding out more about, okay, well, how do we do those things? And not just how do we do them, but how do we empower other people to be able to take advantage of opportunities too? And that's where my passion for design thinking emerged, because design thinking, what I love about it is, yes, it's a framework for solving problems. You know, you begin with empathy, you ideate, you prototype, you iterate. So that framework, I think, is what it's most commonly known for. But what design thinking also gives you is an underlying set of mindsets as you're working with those problems, and things that you hear so commonly, oh, it's important to learn from failure. It's important to be comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity, and it's important to have optimism. And what people are always sort of yes, we agree with that, but how do we do that? And so there's a school here in San Diego, California. It's a kindergarten to 8th grade, and they actually use design thinking to not only create the culture of the school model that they have. So they don't have your traditional bell schedule of 50-minute periods. Their teachers don't work in individual classrooms. They collaborate together. And just the way they go about everything is through design thinking. And they're a public school. So they're not a private school or a charter or an independent. And that was really important to me when I was looking at, okay, how do I want to share an example of how this can be possible? I didn't want to take something that people might look at and think, well, they're able to do this because they have this much money to be able to do this. This is this isn't about money. This is about our time and commitment to people and how we can change our systems when we do invest in them.
It's your turn to join the conversation by sharing what you enjoyed or what questions you still have. In a world where time and attention are so valuable, thank you for choosing to listen and for being a part of our Sprint to Success with Design Thinking community.